The morning began with complete silence as I parked my car outside the headquarters, where I had spent more than 30 years building a company that felt more like family than business. Every hallway, every office, and every employee represented decades of sacrifices that most people would never understand. My name was Michael Carter, and although my business card simply identified me as Director of Corporate Operations, very few people knew how deeply involved I had been in building the company from its earliest days. The founder trusted me with decisions that affected thousands of employees because loyalty had always mattered more than titles. Everything changed after the founder unexpectedly announced his retirement because of serious health concerns. Instead of allowing the board to select an experienced executive, he appointed his only daughter, Victoria Carter, as the new Chief Executive Officer. She was intelligent, highly educated, and confident, but she had never managed a company of this size. Many employees hoped she would spend time learning from experienced leaders before making major decisions. Unfortunately, confidence without experience often creates dangerous assumptions. On her very first morning, Victoria entered the executive conference room surrounded by consultants, assistants, and personal advisors who constantly praised every decision she made. Without introducing herself properly to department leaders, she immediately began announcing organizational changes that shocked everyone. Several long-serving managers were publicly criticized for outdated leadership styles, while experienced executives were interrupted whenever they attempted to explain the reasons behind existing policies. The atmosphere became tense because everyone sensed she wanted complete control before understanding how the company actually operated. When the meeting ended, she called me into her office with an expression that suggested the conversation had already been decided before I entered. She looked at my personnel file for only a few seconds before closing it with obvious disappointment. She claimed the company needed younger leadership and modern thinking instead of people connected to the founder's old management style. Then she delivered the sentence that echoed through the room. "Hand over every company key. Security will escort you out immediately." The assistants nodded with satisfaction while several employees watched through the glass walls in complete disbelief. I remained completely calm because anger would only strengthen the impression she already had of me. Without arguing, I reached into my pocket and placed every campus master key onto her polished desk. Beside those keys rested one small silver envelope that had remained sealed for nearly 20 years. The company attorney standing beside Victoria immediately recognized the handwriting on the envelope. His confident expression disappeared instantly as he whispered something into her ear. For the first time since entering the building that morning, the new chief executive officer looked genuinely nervous. The attorney carefully explained that the sealed envelope could only be opened during a formal board meeting if Michael Carter was ever removed from the company without unanimous board approval. Victoria laughed at first because she believed employment contracts could never override executive authority. She insisted the envelope was meaningless and ordered security to continue escorting me outside. Before anyone moved, the attorney quietly informed her that every board member had already received emergency notifications requesting their immediate presence because the condition described in the founder's legal instructions had just occurred. Within 40 minutes, the largest conference room in the building was filled with directors, legal advisors, financial officers, and independent auditors. Victoria confidently assumed the meeting would simply confirm her authority as the new chief executive officer. Instead, the company attorney carefully opened the sealed envelope in front of everyone. Inside rested a handwritten letter from the founder together with legally binding governance documents prepared years earlier. The founder explained that Michael Carter had protected the company through multiple financial crises, hostile takeover attempts, and economic recessions. If anyone ever dismissed him without unanimous board approval, emergency succession procedures would immediately activate to protect the organization from reckless leadership. Silence filled the room as each director reviewed the signed documents. Several board members admitted they had personally approved the contingency plan many years earlier because they trusted the founders' judgment completely. Independent auditors confirmed every signature and legal requirement had been verified long before the founders' retirement. Victoria slowly realized this was not about one employee keeping his job. It was about protecting thousands of workers whose livelihoods depended upon stable leadership rather than emotional decisions. For the first time that day, confidence gave way to uncertainty. The chairman addressed the room with remarkable calmness before explaining that leadership is earned through humility, not inherited through family connections. He praised Michael for never mentioning the contingency plan during all those years because genuine loyalty never seeks personal advantage. After several hours of discussion, the board voted unanimously to suspend Victoria as Chief Executive Officer until she completed executive governance training and rebuilt the trust she had damaged during her first day. Rather than celebrating, I simply thanked every director for protecting the company instead of protecting individual pride. Months later, Victoria returned with a completely different attitude. She apologized personally to every employee she had publicly criticized and admitted that arrogance had nearly destroyed everything her father spent his life creating. Instead of seeing experienced employees as obstacles, she began treating them as mentors whose knowledge could never be replaced by ambition alone. Together, we reorganized outdated departments, improved employee benefits, modernized operations, and achieved the strongest financial performance in company history. The greatest victory was never about revenge. It was proving that respect, humility, and teamwork will always build stronger companies than ego ever can. Sometimes the person holding the keys is not the one holding the real power. Real leadership is not about firing people to prove authority. It is about earning respect before asking others to follow. Karma does not always arrive with anger. Sometimes it arrives through truth, patience, and consequences that cannot be ignored. If you enjoyed this story, please support the channel by liking this video, sharing it with others, and subscribing to Assembly Battery All Stories. Press the bell icon to stay updated with every new emotional story we upload. I would love to hear your opinion, so leave your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the story. See you in the next video.